Thanks, guys. And as Don was just saying, we are going to be departing at Snake versus Top. They are currently in a pause. However, as the series progresses, we will be moving on and trying to give you as many updates on that series as possible as we head into our match of the week. So for now, my name is Richard Pulscam. I've still got Barenta Raz Mohammed alongside me, but I'm pretty sure I'm meant to have one more analyst on this desk. I feel like we're a little bit cramped here.
Just a tiny bit,
tiny bit. I'm not sure who else my analyst is meant to be.
I don't.
Who could it
Wait
possibly...
a second. Wait a minute. I'm feeling a rumbling here.
That's not her, that's you, Raz.
Is it? Are you sure about that?
Welcome to desk. Indiana FLICKR in black, welcome. I know we had to pull you away from the game, so apologies, but we really needed to get your expert analysis on a match of the week here between EDG and RNG.
Yeah, I was just flying. I was like, gotta get here. What up, guys? I'm here to help you guys out on our match of the week, our big crescendo moment of the LPL. It feels like I can't think of any other match all year other than maybe the finals that has more tension, drama, and heat around it than Royal Never Give Up versus Edward Gaming.
Yeah, we've definitely forced them to play against each other as well because we only get one chance to see this matchup in cross-conference before we go back into their own conferences. So it's going to be a special treat if we don't get to see them play against each other in playoffs. So really good stuff here, Raz.
Yeah, 100%. Like, while the last game was happening, you could hear the crowd kind of setting up for it. The hosts are getting them riled up. You hear the RNG and EDG fans in force. Honestly, this is a booked house. So everybody's ready for this one.
Yeah, and I just want to quickly throw out some stats here because this is a legacy match between EDG and RNG. Currently, since 2016, RNG and EDG's record is 14-14. So this could very much be the decider. And like you said, the next time that we'll ever get to see these teams play would be if they met in the playoffs or the finals, if history tells us anything.
And before we get too deep on the narrative, EDG and RNG, because I know that's what everyone wants to watch, if you were following Snake versus TOP, we're going to show you where you can go ahead and follow the remaining action. That will be in Mandarin, but you can go over to Panda or Douyu to continue watching, and that will be handled by our lovely Mandarin colleagues. So if you want to go ahead and watch that, you can do so. So follow the links here. We'll leave it for just a second as you can type in that URL, but we are going to continue RNG and EDG. And I feel like this matchup, obviously you have to look at the bottom lane. You have Uzi today going up against the Prodigy, iBoy coming in here, and of course we heard it at the start of the split. You know, Uzi was saying, if you want to be the best, you got to go through me, and I feel like that was very much pointed at someone like iBoy.
And he technically named two people.
Technically.
He named the teams in which the 80 carries were on that could take him on, and he was worried about Jackie Love and 100% iBoy. So that's where the real tension comes in to play, because iBoy, when he had his own debut, he went through a few games, about like 10, a dozen perhaps, before he won that trophy.
But let me tell you about technicalities. So you see that we have named iBoy the Prodigy. His name in China is Baby Uzi. And when he was known as Baby Uzi, he faced real Uzi in his very first final, playing only 19 games in the LPL. And it wasn't Uzi who walked off the stage with the trophy. It was iBoy who became I-Man, who is no longer Baby Uzi, but the actual Prodigy of the LPL.
Yeah, he had grown into very much a powerhouse in his own right, and iBoy today now stands before Uzi, having played many, many more games in the LPL with EDG, who have also brought in new members, and EDG have rebuilt their roster coming into today and look like an even stronger team than ever.
Yeah, and honestly, both of these teams have a very, very similar personalities and where they play towards. I feel like EDG historically have always catered towards their bottom side of the map, and then when iBoy came in, incredibly comfortable, had that stellar Worlds performance, comes back towards domestic play, and it's all about iBoy. All of the pressure goes towards the bottom side of the map.
And meanwhile, RNG have really been suffering. They came back stronger after Chinese New Year, had that adrenaline injection from Uzi down into the bot lane. He reversed morale. You know, whatever it was, the intangibles that come along with being such a superstar like Uzi seem to have turned or righted the ship for RNG, but this is their first real test. You know, it's been pretty smooth sailing since Uzi's return, and now they get to run into rough waters against EDG.
Yeah, they're really riding that high currently. The fact that he was able to come in, as you said, bring in that boost of morale, but just a massive boost within the bottom lane strength. They legitimately just won a game off of their 2v2 when they went up against FPX. That's what you can do if you're Uzi. You just come into a laning phase and obliterate your opponent.
And take a look at that CSD at 10. iBoy has the second place, and I believe his is 10.6. 16.5 is the CSD at 10 difference from Uzi. Yes, he doesn't have the same amount of games as iBoy to collect those stats, but he has just been ridiculous. Just rocked back into the LPL and sort of taken names.
Exactly, and we heard from Carter as well. They've gotten another strategy to play around. The fact that Uzi, well, it's Uzi at the end of the day. You can move towards the bottom lane, you can help him out, even when it was MLXG on the roster. Maybe we'll even see him today, but he's able to go into the bottom lane, get the lane snowballing, or even sometimes Uzi will also just get the lane snowballing by himself.
100%. It feels like they've just gone back towards the last time they had Uzi on the roster when they were in the summer split. That was their strategy. They try and pick as strong of a laning phase combination. This is, of course, in EDG, this is a good example of how this bottom lane is going to play out once you see iBoy and Uzi clash tonight.
I mean, it comes down to the fact that if you turned on heat maps of both these teams to see where all of the action is happening, it's happening in the bot lane. We expect iBoy and Uzi to not hold anything back. They're going to throw down the gauntlet to each other, and the rest of the teams are going to get behind them, rally, and try to make it happen. It's a question of who's actually going to execute and who's going to do it better.
And speaking about execution, if you look at this play, this was RNG looking towards a bottom side play up against FPX. Sure, RNG plays this as well as you possibly could, but Uzi plays this so phenomenally well that he still comes out so far ahead and gets out of it with just a breath of HP.
Frankly, Uzi has been unreal. A lot of times during domestic split, he'll really fall down, and then, you know, come crunch time internationally, he'll step up, he'll be that Uzi that we know and love and seen on the international stage. But since returning domestically, he has been that international superstar. His reactions, his flashes, how he's doing team fighting is just unreal.
And of course, that was one of the questions coming in, because a lot of people saw your tier list for us and they were like, hang on, where's Uzi? It's like, well, he'd played like 2 games at this point in time.
5 games total in the LPL this split.
So now he's actually come in, he's actually played a bunch of series. You can see the crowd, it's a completely packed house tonight. We saw the teams come out earlier today and it was insanely loud. I know you guys were casting the last set and I couldn't hear anything. The crowd is unbelievably hyped today.
Yeah, we are getting a look at the roster. Should be noted, it's Let Me, Karsa, Xiaohu, Uzi, and Ming starting for RNG's roster. I cannot think of a more star-studded roster than this. How many times have you said to yourself, man, I wish I could see Uzi and Karsa play together?
I know, right? It feels like a bit of a dream, and when Karsa first came onto the Rift, there was a little bit of difficulties, but he came back, came strong.
Yeah, and on the other side, the brand new Edward Gaming roster, Ray, Haro, Scout, iBoy, and Mako. No clear love to be seen. This is the new iteration, the young blood, the new Degrassi 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. And it's even more impressive the fact that an organization like EDG can continue to churn out incredible 5-man rosters. The fact that they have been in so many finals since their since they joined the
Their
LPL.
Inaugural split.
That's the one. Thank you, Ray.
Let me throw you some numbers. Since Edward Gaming have become a team in 2014, they have had a chance at 8 possible finals appearances. They have 5 titles, and they have appeared in 6 of them. They've only lost 1 final against RNG. And you know who was their AD carry? It wasn't Uzi. Uzi has yet to take down this team.
Yep, it always feels like when you start to count EDG out, especially in the summer split of last year, when they were down and out, when they were 0-2 when it came to the finals, reverse sweeping it, you never really count them out when it comes to crunch time.
That is an 83% win record when EDG get into a final. Now, that said, we're domestic. RNG do have a better track record against EDG domestically than when it comes to crunch time in the final, so maybe this one might turn in RNG color.
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much had to have a better win rate in the regular season, because for it to be 14-14 coming in today, where else were they going to pick up their wins? So really need to see if they can step it up today, because when we see these big teams clash, no matter really how we see them play up against the smaller teams, the middle of the pack teams, when we see them go toe-to-toe, that's when sparks seem to fly.
Yeah. I want to talk about the X factor, because we expect sparks to fly. We've already talked about iBoy and Uzi. I need to talk about the top lane. Now, the fact that it's Let Me, we're unsure. Is it going to be Zatai? Is it going to be Let Me? We saw Let Me playing most recently for the team. They went back to their very old kind of 1-3-1 style that we knew RNG for going into internationally. And then Ray has just been such a ray of sunshine, effectively, for EDG. Huge champion pool, great diversibility, wow. My producer spoke into my ear at the exact time. He can play tanks, he can play carries, he can play it all.
And since the start, when Ray came in, he was kind of just showcasing how strong he actually is with solo kill after solo kill. So for me, up against Let Me needs to stand strong, especially in game 1. RNG have the ability to swap him out for Zatai if it goes poorly.
All right, guys, we don't have too much longer, so I'm going to quickly get predictions from you guys. Raz, who's going to take it?
Ooh, I'll say RNG.
RNG. No more words? Okay, FLICKR.
Edward Gaming. I think they've got 10 times more tools in draft phase.
Ooh. All right, well, there you have it. Before we head over to casters, we are going to hear from Mako and his thoughts on this matchup.
RNG 现在的话，我觉得他们3条路都很强，然后卡萨也跟队伍的磨合就越来越好嘛。跟优待就是 对线下路的话，我觉得还是压力挺大的。就去年夏季赛的时候，决赛遇到一次，就是那时候就感受到了很大的压力嘛，就觉得他们下路特别强。然后这次再一次遇到的话，还是就把我们之前就是没有做好的地方调整好吧，调整好状态，应该是可以跟他们一战。
A lot of respect from Mako going up against his opponents here today, RNG, especially towards Carson. The jungle, hello everyone. I'm Matthew Stewart. Joining me is Clement Chu. And Clement, it's a split desk. FLICKR thinks EDG is going to take it. Raz thinks RNG is going to take it. This is going to be such an amazing match to watch.
Frosk, I know you're a fan of Clearlove, but sadly he isn't playing today. Your jungler is now Haro, and that's the reason I have to give the edge to RNG, because it is a mid and jungle focused duo in this patch 8.4.
Yeah, 8.4 essentially shifted the meta towards more skirmishes as well as 2v2 dueling between the mid laners and junglers. And we already heard from Mako, talks very highly of Karsa, how he's meshing a lot better with RNG now, and that could be the make or break for RNG in this matchup.
And that is the big point, because RNG, they don't necessarily have to play through Uzi and Ming in the bot lane. They can win through Xiaohu and Karsa in the mid and jungle, and that's going to put so much pressure on EDG. For EDG, I want to go in about what their style is going to be today, because we saw them with another AD carry in their previous set. It was Hope. He was able to stand behind tower and let Mako roam. Is that going to be the new style for EDG? Because we've seen a lot of aggression being punished in that bot lane.
Especially because we were talking about this during the cast, where Hope was substituted in for EDG. They could have done exactly what they did with that composition, the exact same playstyle with iBoy. iBoy just had to be a little bit more passive and not rely on too much resource being given to him during the early game.
Yeah, that's definitely true, but both of these teams, at the end of the day, they're still very bottom-focused teams. The #1 gold share from Uzi and the second highest gold share from Uzi. They do need their big AD carries to step up, but not necessarily in the laning phase.
And we'll get to see if these two teams still draft towards being a bottom-focused side of the map as we head into Champion Select for game #1. First two bans coming out from RNG are going to be Camille as well as Rakan, targeted towards Haro Ray as well as Mako, the side of EDG. They're taking away Galio and Sion, two of the biggest tanks at the moment.
We do have to talk about the big picks that both of these teams share, and those are the Caitlyn and also the Ryze in the mid lane. The Caitlyn we've seen EDG utilize a lot, and she's actually been buffed because of the sieging potential with the Banner of Command. And also the Ryze, it's the most played champion for both of these mid laners. There's going to be a lot of priority on that pick.
It's not just a pick that EDG tried to work with for iBoy, but Uzi is very well known for his Caitlyn, not only in the recent meta and the spring split of 2018, but historically he's been well known for picking up Caitlyn. Cassiopeia is the final ban that comes out from RNG, so either Ryze or Azir will be left open after the end of this draft phase. Final ban from EDG is going to be Tahm Kench.
And that Cassiopeia pick, I have to say, is a very strong signal that they will first pick up something like the Ryze, because Cassio is one of the hardest counters here. That's a very interesting thing that they go for this Sejuani instead. I thought RNG would try to leverage more of their potential with Karsa over Haro. Instead, they go with a much more passive jungler.
Well, EDG ban out both Galio as well as Sion, so the two main tanks from the lanes are gone. Might as well pick the one that's remaining in the jungle. I'll have to see what EDG decides to pair up for Haro to go up against Karsa in the jungle. They get their two first picks here. Both teams taking their time, really thinking about what they're going to be picking up into one another. Azir is the lock-in for Scout in the mid lane.
Definitely a very favored pick on this patch, but not a pick I really like Scout on. He's the one that really wants to make plays. He sees himself as an assassin, and a lot of his Azir teamfights have been less than satisfactory. But the Olaf pick is something we do expect from Haro. Now, Haro we typically associate as a weaker jungler. He's not that confrontational, but with an Olaf, you can face check into the enemy team.
On top of that, Olaf has been incredibly strong on patch 8.4. We see a lot of people picking up the Predator Keystone Rune and running around in the jungle with the champion. Going up against a Sejuani does have a lot of dueling pressure, as well as capabilities to negate all the crowd control that Sejuani will be able to dish out onto Haro's Olaf. Whereas RNG, they lock in both Tristana as well as Ryze as their last two picks in the first draft phase.
I think the Ryze makes a lot of sense. It really gives the reason to ban Cassiopeia out, but the Tristana is rather an interesting pick because she's not that good in lane, and the enemy team is going to have Varus and Olaf coming into the bot lane. So that's a lot of pressure being applied there from Uzi.
You're going to have to see what the final pick in this draft phase is going to be. Kog'Maw gets locked in for iBoy in the bottom lane. This is patch 8.4, so we skipped through the heavy nerfs that were on Kog'Maw in 8.3. Did get a little bit more damage back on his W, but still not as strong as what we've seen before.
Yeah, Kog'Maw's still a pick that's very strong, 6% on that HP damage now on 8.4. But this is kind of an interesting pick again. EDG are basically saying that we can play for the even later game, and that has traditionally been where they were stronger over RNG, their macro game.
So still looking like they're very bottom lane focused. 2 hyper carries picked up by both teams. Heading into the second ban phase, targeting Let Me in the top lane at the moment as Jace gets banned out against RNG. Brom hits the bench for EDG.
That's a very interesting ban because we haven't seen Let Me on the Jace this season at all. However, he has had a very large turnaround. He's been going into those counter picks, picking up things like Trundle, like Rumble. It's really a different Let Me that we know. It's not the Let Me that's only going to go on tanks like he did at the start of the season.
Seems like EDG have read that as well, as Kled is their final ban against Let Me in the top lane. Two champions you usually associate RNG's top laner with.
Yeah, very aggressive top lane picks, and this does open up some leeway for the Cho'Gath pick. Now, the Jace and the Kled are both very hard counters into the Cho'Gath, so I would assume that would be what they are trying to go for, and it's also something that Ray's very comfortable on.
EDG are well known for their flex picks, so one of the strongest flex picks gets banned out against them. Ornn is taken off the table against both Mako as well as Ray. Now they get first pick during the second rotation, and the final pick to counter out whatever they'd like. Seems like they're saving that for Ray in the top lane as they lock in Alistar as the support for Mako in the bottom lane.
I like the Alistar takeaway from Ming. That's the best champion that he has right now. And also the person with the smallest champion pool on RNG. They are really targeting him out. So he only has Taric pretty much left as a defensive laner here.
Now EDG have to show their hand. What is Ming going to be picking up as the support for Uzi in the bottom lane? And what is Let Me going to be using on the top side of that? Shen's a pick that we normally associate EDG with for both Ray as well as Mako, but it's RNG that pick it up today. It still could be either top lane or support.
It's a good preemptive pick into the Cho'Gath, I would assume. It does give you more lane priority in that matchup, and you can also roam around with it with the priority you get from Ryze around level 6 or level 7. So we do see RNG having a lot of initiation and proactive plays in the middle of the game.
Being able to dodge auto attacks comes out strong, especially when you look at the fact that it's a Kog'Maw, Olaf, Alistar, as well as Azir from the side of EDG. That's going to be a support Shen in the bottom lane for Ming, as Na gets picked up in the top lane for Let Me, and it should be that Cho'Gath, as you mentioned, for Ray. Let's see what they lock in.
Maokai still's kind of the same deal. We've been seeing him pop up a lot more. That top lane has been more passive, and without Tracker's Knife, those saplings do really help out with the team's vision. So it is a new crop up in patch 8.4.
Final pick for EDG heading into the top lane is going to be that Maokai for Ray. So he decides not to go for the Cho'Gath. Maokai historically has had a decent lane against Na, is able to sustain through a lot of the poke that he can dish out.
Definitely. We see a very traditional teamfight heavy composition coming out from EDG. They have your double late game super carries in the Azir and the Kog'Maw, and a very good tank line in Maokai and Alistar as well. As for RNG, I feel like they're trying to up the tempo. They want to be the one that's on the aggressive, on the offensive all the time. They have a lot of lane priority in their champions, and it's really about how they can move their pieces, come around 15 minutes.
Got decent scaling as well, RNG, with the Tristana picked up as well as a Ryze. A decent front line to back up the two carries on the side of RNG. EDG are really going towards late game if they can.
Yeah, that's what they're looking for, and that's the stylistic difference between these two teams. If we look at the amount of kills at 15 minutes, RNG is second in the league, while EDG is actually second to last. So they like to play a more slow and controlled style, and that's what they're going for today.
Oh, no. You care to elaborate what these mean, Clement?
So Xiaohu is saying today's strategy, and Uzi looks very angry, and today's strategy is we're going to sell the dog. So they're going to use Tristana as bait. That's basically what the crowd is saying right now.
Well, let's see if RNG do use Uzi as that bait. Since he's come back into the LPL after Chinese New Year, he's looked incredibly strong. RNG still put on their few other 80 carries from time to time. We know that their bench has a ton of 80 carries who are incredibly strong. But Uzi is still one of the best.
He's definitely the king there. They have 480 carries in total, but they haven't played after Chinese New Year. Uzi is a new face of RNG. He's the focus of the team, and he's why they've been winning so hard. But I do want him to dial it back a little bit in this matchup. He doesn't necessarily need to win the bot.
Well, he's going up against iBoy, who is touted as the one that EDG need to protect. The prodigy from the side of EDG up against the uncrowned king of Uzi. RNG taking on EDG. We're getting on to Summoner's Rift for game one of this best 3 series.
The Crowdless King has definitely got the crowd hyped. You can hear them screaming right now. RNG and EDG fans, 500 strong, up in the Shanghai Arena.
And it wouldn't be better if they didn't start with some bloodshed. Uzi as well as Ming looking to try and get some damage on towards iBoy and Mako. No summoner spells being burnt by either team, but already an aggressive start.
We're going to see this quite often against Olaf. They want to check out where they start on their first rotation because Olafs usually go very, very low on their first clear. You can punish that as the enemy jungle.
On top of that, we see quite a few teams trying to go for fake leashes whenever they have an Olaf on their squad because he can clear out those first camps quite quickly. The lower Olaf gets in his hit points, the faster he actually clears the rest of his jungle.
And then we see Firefox, the general manager of RNG now, the previous coach coming over, and also Aaron, and they're sitting together. So not a lot of animosity between these two teams.
A lot of history between both RNG as well as EDG. I believe since 2016, they're 16-16 tied up in terms of games taken against one another.
Overall, EDG do have the lead in terms of historical score. 23-19 is the score since LPL started. But we're in a brand new season, and RNG have been doing much stronger this split, I have to say.
Instead of getting any fake leashes, we see iBoy as well as Mako head into the bottom lane nice and early to get the first push against Uzi as well as Ming, making sure they take it slow so they're stuck in the middle of the lane as well. And there is that head-to-head between RNG as well as EDG since 2017. Bottom lane though, already lots of fighting between the two AD carries and supports. Ming as well as Uzi take a ton of damage. iBoy and Mako trade back effectively.
May miss his taunt right there. In terms of the AD matchups, Kog'Maw does have priority in the lane over the Tristana, but what Ming is trying to do is basically use an early cheese with that level 1.
Mako is able to interrupt the rocket jump coming out from Uzi. He took that at level 1 to be a little bit safer in this matchup instead of his E. EDG are able to successfully get some more trade damage and push them underneath their turret. Meanwhile, checking in with the junglers, Karsa spotted out that red buff was not started by Olaf. However, a zombie ward spots him out as he jumps over the Rift Herald wall. Haro knows that Sejuani is inside of his own jungle. Let's see what he decides to do.
It's very interesting because RNG realized that EDG actually did a very light leash for their jungler. Unlike them, RNG actually did a much stronger leash.
Xiaohu also uses minion dematerializer to push in Scout, so Scout can't rotate to help out Haro. Karsa finds him and gets a lot of damage onto this Olaf. That should force him back to base.
Ooh, and Olaf is a very early game dependent jungler. If things do not go well for him, he doesn't have a late game to back him up. So this is tremendously bad news for EDG.
Even calling upon Let Me to help out. RNG have two pushing lanes at the top side of the map. Haro sticks around, looks to try and take his Krug camp for himself. So Karsa cannot continue pushing in. There's his stats at the moment, but it's where we're going to be focusing a lot on this bottom lane because they just want to kill each other at the moment. Mako even gets that final stun, allows Ivo to get one last auto attack onto Shen.
You could say that EDG went for a very greedy early game, not leashing for their jungler and having him punish on the top side of the map, but this is the reason they did it. They want that level advantage in the bot lane so they can have a better matchup from iBoy. This is not the Hope EDG, this is the iBoy EDG.
RNG have to be a little bit EDG have to be a little bit careful because there are no wards on the bottom side of this map. And both Xiaohu as well as Karsa were rotating down towards the bottom side. iBoy and Mako are pushed up quite aggressively. Scout and Xiaohu meet in the river. And immediately Scout decides to back away. Ignite being used onto iBoy here as Ming jumps in nice and aggressive. That's a flash on iBoy. This could be first blood. And it's picked up by Karsa. Now Mako, he's out of mana, only has his flash. Uses it, but Karsa goes forward. This jungler is everywhere on this map. And Mako will fall. Double kill picked up by Karsa.
Can Haro trade anything back? I don't think he's going to risk it though.
He's looking to try and see what he can do. Uzi gets really low. He needs that axe. They taunt him. They're going to take him down. Smite comes through. Picks up the return kill. But will it be another one? A double! What the heck, Haro? He picks up two, but RNG take him down.
Haro with the hero play right there, and all of the kills going over to, none of the kills going over to Uzi, so a fair trade back there coming from EDG. But I have to say, this is why playing aggressive in the bot lane is such a dangerous strategy. We've seen this over and over again. You don't have the warding to have continued aggression in this meta, and that's basically what happened here. RNG able to punish the aggressive laning from iBoy.
On top of that, look at how the lane in the bottom side of the map is currently shifted. There's a massive wave pushing back towards Uzi. He should be able to collect that. That's all from this gank that came into the bottom lane.
Yeah, iBoy really pushing his luck right there. They know that Karsa is free to roam around the map, but they still didn't back out. They spotted Karsa way too late and hand over the double kill. Luckily for them, however, Haru was able to land a miracle axe onto Uzi and follow it up with the smite.
No more tracker smite. Means that he can do just this. Walks up, gets the smite down, and then somehow takes down Karsa as well. You don't want to fight Olaf when he's that low, and he picks up a kill for himself. We look back at how this has affected that bottom lane matchup. Uzi's been able to get a slight CS lead for himself, picking up the wave that crashed underneath his turret. Haro, though, is still waiting in the wings, trying to see if he can get access to the bottom lane again.
Uzi should not play aggressive in this lane. Even though their wave is pushing in, they should understand that.
Well, Ming jumps in first. Haro is still waiting for this one. Mako gets a double knockup. Uzi goes very low, and he's picked up by iBoy. Ming's now trying to run away. Has that red buff. No flash available for Shen. Pulls back the sword. Is it enough? No, it's not. Haro picks up red buff and the second kill.
A huge turnaround from EDG. Lost the first 2 kills, but able to equalize with Olaf. And this is what the pick's for. Olaf is known for chopping up bot laners. It's pretty much like the Patriot versus the Redcoats. You just go bot over and over again, and it becomes really bloody really fast.
It already has been in this matchup. Already at the start of the game, we saw a lot of focus towards the top side of the map, where Karsa was able to get a decent invade, lock down Haro nice and early. But after that, it was all eyes in the bottom lane, and it's just been a bloodbath ever since.
Yeah, and that was a really good setup from EDG. They placed their control ward in the river bush and allowed Haro to come in through the blue ramp. Was not discovered at all. While RNG on the other side were trying to place wards elsewhere on the map to try to find Haro.
Ray getting a little bit angry against Let Me there, pops his ultimate, goes for a small trade against Na. Haro is on the top side of the map, so Let Me does have to be a little bit careful. We haven't seen too much from these 2 top laners. Teleport was used by Na to get back into lane. Ray is still holding on to his teleport, yet to go back to base and shop.
And you generally won't see much out of the top laners. It's a very passive top lane for patch 8.4. Both of these are just going to be trading CS, but however in the late game, RNG does have the split push edge, while EDG will have the team fighting edge with Maokai.
Well, Scout going aggressive in the mid lane. Xiao tries to use his ultimate to get away. There's no crowd control to stop this. Is able to get back to safety.
Very close on that. Remember, Ryze can no longer use his stopwatch, and he doesn't even have the stopwatch in this patch. So just getting by without using any summoners, I might add, with the shielding from the double Q.
But EDG, Haro's just been so proactive on this Olaf pickup. A different type of jungler when he's able to get such an aggressive pick.
I like what they're doing for Haro. They're really simplifying his job. What Haro used to do is he had to set up vision for the bot lane in order for them to get aggressive. They're skipping out the set vision step, and they're just telling him to gank over and over again. And that fits the playstyle that Olaf has.
There you go. A nerf to Tracker's Knife is actually a buff to Haro. As Xiaohu misses his rune prison there against Scout. Instead takes down the minions, clears that out. Karsa has been farming up the storm though. He is about 20 CS or approaching 20 CS ahead of Haro and still counter jungling against EDG's jungler. Finds Scout here, wants to try and lock him down, but Scout slides away.
And this is the high point of RNG's composition. They do have priority in the mid lane now with Ryze over Azir.
Karsa steal this. He's already been able to take the first red buff away for Haro. Goes for it, picks up the steal against EDG's jungler once again, denying that buff. Haro flashing over the wall, pops the Ragnarok, goes to town very low. Can he get the kill? No, he can't. Karsa gets a heal as well as the Stand United. Scout is trying his hardest to take him down, even flashing for it. But Ming, what a big taunt! He'll still fall to the Sand Soldiers, but they get 2 kills in return. Now Ray wants a piece of the action as well. Rotates down to the mid lane, not able to get anything done with it though.
Oh, and even though EDG are the team that's most likely to use a Shen support, they forgot about Ming. They forgot about that Stand United coming in and saving Karsa's life. It took so long for them to take him down. Even used Maokai's Nature's Grasp, didn't manage to get it.
Karsa was able to pick up the first red buff at the start of the match, returns for the second, and it starts a skirmish between the 2 teams. This is where we expect RNG to be stronger at the moment, and they showcase that in this skirmish.
That red smite was so important, stealing the buff, getting that extra regen, getting that extra damage, really swung the entire skirmish into RNG's favor right there.
Even gave Let Me a small advantage. He was not required during that skirmish, stayed on the top side of the map. His teleport's coming back off of cooldown much faster than Ray's is at the moment.
Close play, but this is what we predicted out of RNG. You don't necessarily have to win the bot lane. You can let your 2v2 do most of the work.
We're just watching that bottom lane as both iBoy and Mako were pushing in, but Xiaohu's the one that's getting ganked here. Does not have his flash available, but does have ultimate. Instead, he just turns around and says, you know what, I will fight both of you. Come at me. Scout now incredibly low. Xiao goes forward, barely misses it. Can the minions do it? No, they can't. Almost a solo kill in the mid lane, but this opens up, taking down mid lane out of turret because Haro's been pushed off as well.
And that was such a close fight. Karsa overstepping the Realm Warp by just a little bit. He had his flash and his Q, so if he actually got on board, they could have secured that kill. But it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. They're still able to get that chip damage on the mid tower.
It's red buff on Xiaohu, and he has Karsa in his back pocket. He's zoning away Haro, making sure he can't clear any of these minions that are helping him take down this turret. Very early push towards the mid lane outer turret. It's one of the harder outer turrets to take down in this matchup. And RNG will pick up the first one, going over to Xiaohu as well.
This is why I favor RNG in this matchup. They have so many points that they can punish you. And the Rise is critical in this matchup. I'm kind of surprised EDG actually went for Azir. Azir is not traditionally one of Scout's better champions. It's a sit back and wait champion. That's not what Scout wants to do.
No, it is not. Haro has actually been caught out again, forced to use Ragnarok. Xiaohu's still trying to chase him down, despite that ultimate being popped. Very aggressive plays coming out from RNG.
And just look at the itemization from Haro. He's stuck in a very bad place. Knows that he doesn't have the level lead to really go into the Warmogs. Instead, has to go for mana items and try to hash it out with probably going for the more glacial items. It's just really bad early game from Olaf, and that's not a champion that can recover well.
He's still able to pick up quite a few kills in the early game. Haro was very impactful in countering that bottom lane gank, at least pull something back for EDG. Top starter Matt Letme being a little bit aggressive against Ray here. Gets the stun, but it's just two tanks going at it. Nothing much is going to happen on the top side of map for now.
Sorry, just to clean up my previous point, he's going for the Righteous Glory instead of the Warmogs, which is the item you would go if you were ahead in the matchup and you had that level HP to really sustain it.
He's already picked up a Giant Spell, so trying to correct his way, it seems, at the moment. Let's see what Haro picks up later on in the match. For now, going back down to the bottom lane, where we saw a lot of the early action take place between these two teams. Uzi's gone back to base, has his Berserker Greaves, picked up the components for his Infinity Edge as well, whereas iBoy is at that difficult item spot for the Rage Play, where he has the pickaxe as well as the recurve bow.
And the important thing is to look at the CS. Even though iBoy had a better early laning phase and a better matchup, because they don't have mid priority, he's actually falling behind in CS. He has to take the Xiaohu pressure into account, so he can't CS as well.
Unlike every other one of Uzi's matchups, this is not a 16 CS difference for him at 10 minutes into the match. Very even between these two bottom lane duos. The veteran going up against the newcomer in the league.
Well, he's not against LWX, so just to throw that out there a little bit.
See lots of vision being placed down in the river for EDG at the moment, trying to protect that bottom lane duo. Karsa knows that Haro is on the bottom side of the map, so he's trying to take down the Rift Herald. We'll get some help coming out from his mid lane if he needs it.
We do have to note that a lot of this vision advantage is coming because Ming had his Watchers earlier. He has that Sight Stone, so the bottom control is going to go over to the support who actually has Snowball this game.
Even Letme rotating into the top side of the jungle to help out Xiaohu pick up blue buff.
This is a very favorable trade for RNG. The laning phase is almost over with the mid lane down already. So getting that Herald, I think it's so much better than the Ocean Drake.
But at least EDG gets something in that trade. It's not just going to be a free objective for RNG. But Karsa's been tracking these red buffs down to the second that they spawned. With the focus on the bottom side of the map for EDG allows them to take this one quite freely. EDG still playing very aggressively on the bottom side of the map. Haro's coming in to look and see if he can help with taking down this turret. Mako takes a little bit of damage from the taunt that comes out from Ming.
Ooh, there's a lot of teleports on RNG's side. They can do the double teleport into the bot lane. That's why you see EDG not willing to push their 3v2 advantage anymore.
RNG don't have the best flank wards, but they do have one at the Gromp camp of EDG in the bottom lane. EDG were trying to push through in that bottom side of the map, but RNG used the pressure on the bottom side to take down a top lane outer turret. That's 2 turrets to none, and propels their gold leader 3,500 ahead of EDG.
And they still have the Herald in their back pocket. They can use that to crack even more on the top side of the map. They're able to hold the bottom side while overloading the top side. That's what double teleports does for you.
Karsa's still farming up a Storm as well. He's still 25 CS ahead of Karo. A full level above the Olaf as well on this Sejuani pick, picking up the core components of his tanky items for Sejuani.
And I guarantee you, this is where Frost Current is on the analyst desk and having her head kind of tilted downwards, screaming to the sky, "Clear love, where are you?"
There's nowhere to be seen at the moment, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people in the audience are asking the same question. Haro has not had a bad game so far, but Karsa just looks on form coming into this match. We already heard from Mako saying that it looks like he is synergizing so well with his team after the initial few matches that were a little bit shaky for him.
That's the scary part about RNG. 8.4, in my opinion, buffs him up significantly. Karsa is one that wants to look for contact in the jungle, and that's what's going to happen over and over in 8.4. You can't just leave wards and then walk out of the enemy jungle. In order to secure, you have to stay there.
And we've already seen that strength from RNG. They've been winning those 2v2 skirmishes. Already EDG are trying to retreat away from those fights at the moment. First turret was picked up in the middle lane from it. But EDG are really well known for their 5-on-5 team fights, and we're approaching the mid game where that could break out between the two teams. And we've seen them go up against teams like IGB, 10,000 gold behind, and they can still take a 5-on-5 fight. RNG, yes, they are good at team fights as well, but can they match up to the caliber that EDG are well known for?
That's a very hard question for RNG to answer, and if you ask me which team is the scariest in the LPL with Baron, I would have to give it to EDG. They're so coordinated in terms of those pushes and team fights. Their macro play has been on top of the LPL for so long. So while RNG do have a current lead, they need to push it.
And they are pushing it this time through objectives in the bottom lane, using the Rift Herald charge to help out Uzi take down the final outer turret against EDG. Bottom lane outer is going to fall, and they pick up a nice goal lead for themselves. Now over 4,000 ahead of EDG.
Ooh, and RNG really have a really smooth path to victory. They have another Mountain Drake they can pick up on their leisure. I don't think EDG can contest at this point, and then they transition straight to Baron, where they have a Rise ultimate to send the Sejuani to the back. So there's a lot of game plan being written for RNG right now. Very easy execution as well. EDG, I feel like they need some turbulence to happen. They need a fight or a pick where they really throw RNG off balance. If it goes the way it has been, it's a little too easy for RNG at this moment.
Well, where do you think we're going to see that turbulence come out for EDG? Because at the moment, it's 3 minutes until the first Baron buff is going to spawn. There's no Rift Herald to be taken. All their outer turrets are down. They're going to be pushed to their side of the map as well. It seems a bit difficult for them to create that opportunity until Baron spawns.
If you're talking about big plays from EDG, I think they have one Mr. Big Shot, and that is Mako on his Alistar champion right now. That champion can flank, can make catches, but you're right, it's very difficult, and I wouldn't give it a high chance of it happening. EDG, they're probably going to have to weather the storm, and at this rate, it's going to be very easy for RNG to actually pick up this Baron. They're already setting up on the red side.
Looks like they're trying to put all their eggs in the iBoy basket at the moment. He's completed his Rage Blade, going for his next attack speed item. On the flip side, though, he's up against Uzi. Already has his Infinity Edge completed as Tristan, as well as Boots too, looking for his first Zeal item as well. Still pushing this bottom lane all by himself, picking up the solo experience as well as gold.
This is getting very dangerous from EDG. It is at the tipping point. A little bit more gold over to RNG, and it's gonna be a complete stop. Their composition is so well works so well in sieges. The range from UZI and also the poke coming out from Let Me. EDG can't afford to let RNG get Baron. If they get Baron, it's such an easy execution for them.
See the lane matchups at the moment for RNG. Parking Uzi in the bottom lane, farming up. Let Me as well. As Xiaohui doing the same thing. They had Karsa and Ming inside both the red buff and blue buff of EDG's jungle, trying to stop the rotations coming out from EDG, constantly rotating around the map. EDG will move down towards blue buff, pick that one up for Scout. However, it seems like, again, Karsa is waiting for red buff to spawn.
This is the third red buff Karsa has stolen this game. Actually, the fourth red buff. Excuse me. And they also have complete control over the top side. How is EDG going to get their red side jungle back is the question now.
Got a little bit excited there. I thought that was a steal coming up from now. I realized they're exactly the same team, so it was all planned coming up from RNG. Let Me is still going to continue pushing on the top side of the map. And it seems like until the next major objective spawns, RNG's plan is just to deny as many resources away from EDG and keep them pinned in vision underneath their own turrets.
I really like this adaptation from Scout. He's using the blue trinket instead of the scanner or the yellow totem. He knows that it's going to be very difficult to face check into the red side jungle, so very clever pickup by him.
Baron's going to be coming up in 20 seconds. The next Elemental Dragon has spawned as well. That's a Mountain Dragon. Uzi's going to use this time to head back to base. Just shoved a wave into the bottom lane in a turret. Let Me is still holding on to his teleport, still pushing on the top side of the map. We should see him recall as well. You have to think this is where those fights start to take place between the two teams, because Baron coming up, now EDG have something they can potentially fight for, and RNG have an objective that if they take down could snowball a massive lead for themselves.
EDG is not going to like walking into these fights, but they have to do it. You have to remember, a banner minion right now, it takes 7 shots to take down a tower. That's extremely fast. They have to do something.
And if we look at the items that have been picked up, Sarah's Embrace has been complete for Xiao, who has the Abyssal Mask as well. Uzi has his first static shiv item and a banner of commands picked up by Let Me, but you look at the side of iBoy, although we're showing the gold now and he's not too far behind Uzi, he picked up a QSS as his second item on Cogmore. That's going to delay some of the damage that EDG might need in these mid-game fights.
Yeah, I know what EDG is thinking right now. They're thinking about they're so far behind that they have to sit and scale, probably defend their own high ground. But I don't think that's a good game plan in this strategy. I still think you have to contest something at the Baron. That's probably a higher opportunity. You're probably going to get a higher chance of getting back in the game rather than sitting back.
Well, they just pushed Kasa and Xiaohu away from that objective of Baron buff and got vision back for themselves. But there's the banner of command being used by Let Me. Second item pickup for Na. He is going to continue split pushing, has teleport available. Ray is being sent down to deal with him, but it's a Maokai going up against a banner of command minion.
They need Mako right here. If you look at his items, he has kept that minion dematerializer precisely for this moment, but he's nowhere on the map right now, and they're probably going to just give up this top lane tower.
Top lane in the turret's taken quite a bit of damage from Let Me already. Slowly but surely he should be able to take down that objective, puts even more pressure on the map for RNG. Not just focusing on one objective here, making sure that they split up EDG, making sure they can't look for those perfect 5-on-5 fights.
Let Me just look so much better after their Chinese New Year. He's able to split push, able to apply laning pressure, and we're seeing this new face from him. Also the early banner of command pickup, I really like that because it gives them a straight road to finish the game if they can correctly snowball this Baron.
Slow and steady from RNG at the moment as they still clear out vision towards the Baron buff. Still parking Uzi in the unoccupied lane and having either Ming or Kasa protect him while he does so. EDG now make a push for the mid lane out of turret. 4 members strong. Let Me's going for a duel against Ray on the top side of the map, stopping him from getting anywhere close towards this turret and clearing out minion waves wherever he can. EDG, though, if they can't get enough damage onto the mid lane out, it's defended successfully just by a Shen and Rise.
I like this patience coming out from RNG. What they're saying is that they want more distance for basically Let Me to get into the fight earlier. They want to go into the Baron after they take down the second bot lane tower.
Uzi being very impressive against the mid lane. A scout almost kills him, forces him to get a shield out of that as well. That's an 80 carry going up against a mid lane champion.
That reminds me of my favorite Uzi play, casually walking into Bjergsen and 3-shotting him. That's you know, I always love that play because it reminds me of the harsh reality that NA fanboys have to wake up to when they face an Asian region.
Oh no, Nemo's outside of that. Ray, who just came back from NA, is being ganked by both Xiaohu as well as Let Me, is tanking enough to survive the initial damage, and EDG are on their way. They want to look for a fight here. Ray is incredibly, he flashed for it! Xiaohu goes over the wall, he picks up an easy kill with Let Me.
Right idea, but didn't pay attention to his own life.
And now everywhere around the map, RNG start to put pressure. Uzi in the top side of the map. He's taking down top lane inner turret, pushing towards the inhibitors as well. EDG just can't quite find a firm footing in this matchup after RNG got the initial leads.
The house is burning down, and I don't think you can give Rise back to RNG anymore. They need to think about their second game draft now.
Let's see if they can put up a fight, at least underneath the start. Kasa goes in for the initiation. Scout uses his ultimate as well as cleanse. Mako looks for a fight, but Shen brings back the dodge zone to make sure no damage goes down. This entire time, Let Me's taken down the bottom lane inhibitor turret with that banner of command range minion. Incredibly low. One more push from him should be enough.
It does seem like the only way out for EDG is that they have to find a pick in this bottom lane, then instantly transition into a Baron fight. I think that's their only way out, and the way they do it is they use Mako Alistar. They can dematerializer the pushing Banon minion, get a kill, and then instantly rush for Baron. That's their only play. I don't see anything else.
RNG seem to be using the vision of Baron as a bait almost in this situation, making sure EDG are forced to deal with Let Me, but they can't stay too far away from that objective, while Uzi just pushes the other side lane. It's almost a 1-3-1 coming out from them, using their 80 carry as the split pusher.
This is kind of the effect of Tracker's knife as well. Without that item, a lot of times it's harder to get your defensive vision going. The enemy team can just go into your jungle and take out the control wards. You only have self wards from your support now.
just a couple of wards being picked up by the side of RNG. Everyone's still holding onto that totem ward, except for the jungler as well as support. Mako does have his support item upgraded, so he'll be able to put down some more wards for RNG as well. So they slowly deny more vision and pick up more objectives for themselves. 8,000 gold ahead of RNG. EDG, sorry, and Uzi is still pushing the top side of the map. They still control vision over Baron. EDG are trying to make another play towards this mid lane, see if they can get enough damage of this turret.
This is incredibly risky, but they want mistakes from RNG.
They're trying to collapse on top of iBoy, used his W there. That's a big cooldown for the Cogmore. RNG could look for a fight right now if they choose to take it. iBoy was able to pick up his Wits End, however, so does have 2 items on his Cogmore. Let Me is still split pushing in the bottom lane. That turret could fall with 1 swift push from
RNG are not taking the bait. What EDG is trying to do is they're trying to draw Let Me towards the mid lane, away from that split pushing position. But RNG, they're perfectly capable and happy to defend.
Yep, Let Me brute forces his way into the base of EDG. Now Caster's looking to try and deny EDG from getting any vision over this Baron buff. They lock down Mako, and through his ultimate, they cut him down. RNG still splitting up EDG across the map.
If you look at the members on EDG, Scout did not stop his back, so they knew that Mako was dead. There was nothing they could do for him.
Finally, 6 minutes after Baron spawns, RNG finally make their first proactive attempt. Uzi though, flashing over the wall. He wants to take down Haro. He uses the smite to try and get some more hit points. Uzi's still going forward. He gets the kill, jumps over, gets the top of Scout. Super Mario Brothers are backing down. Double kill for Uzi.
With the reset. And Tristana has been such a staple champion for UZI, one of his best champions. If you think about Worlds, the 2 times he's been in the finals, it has been that Tristana.
And that small skirmish is exactly what RNG are doing to EDG in this game. They are stomping them at the moment. Over 10,000 gold up 26 minutes into the match, and they've had firm control of this game.
No fear whatsoever. That was so well done from Uzi. Waits until Scout's wall completely finishes, so there's no CC portion to it, and then jumps over. Such a good sequence of plays.
Even happy to charge further forward on top of Haro. Knows he can take Scout down as well.
That was beautiful timing. If he jumped any earlier, then he would have been stopped by the wall, but he waited for the wall to finish, so no CC on that part of the ultimate, and then he jumps over.
Uzi must be feeling good heading into this first matchup. Now RNG, they have Baron. They're going to take down another Elemental Dragon for themselves. Let's see how they decide to push the base against EDG. EDG do have that opportunity now to group up and fight, because it's not much of the map that you can split up anymore for RNG, but is it too little too late? You're up against a Baron buff and a team that's over 12,000 gold ahead of you.
Yeah, and you do have to look at the itemizations. Even if Kog'Maw uses his W, he's not going to be able to put enough damage on a banner command minion.
So they're still splitting up EDG at the moment. Top side of that is Let Me split pushing on Nah. They have the Shen as well as the AD carry Uzi in the mid lane, with Rai split pushing in the bottom side of the map, just pushing every single wave they can. And there it is. Thomas the Tank's going to charge through mid lane.
Thomas the Tank is a Frost Karen invention. I do kind of like it over the Bannon minion. It's a more unique flavor.
Hey, don't steal my invention away from me. Clements.
It was yours?
This was my invention.
Okay, okay.
This was me.
Okay, okay, Thomas, cool down, cool down.
But RNG are not able to use that banner command minion, as Mako is able to stop that with a minion dematerializer. Still trying to look for other places to split push, as his turret goes up in the bottom lane to deny that opportunity. Latmi is still chipping away at the top side of the map. Everyone else from RNG are still in the mid lane as they take down the final inner turret and looking towards the base of EDG.
RNG are not going to group. EDG has to force things. They have to group up as 5 and do a Hail Mary. This is not going to get better for them as the game goes on further.
You only get one final play. EDG have been known to be able to do that. Ray is still trying to keep Let Me away from these turrets, but slowly and surely Na will chip away at it. Mid lane now in the siege once again. Every time Uzi steps up with the extra range he gets, he's going to be able to chip away at the turrets. Top lane inhibitor turret is going to fall. Now only the mid lane inhibitor is left.
I don't like that there's no Righteous Glory on the side of Haro, because that is going to facilitate their hero play. Without it, how are they even going to engage? RNG is never going to group up. They're just going to continue this 1-3-1. We've heard this on the analyst desk. This is what has made them successful, and they're showing it right now.
Already inhibitors are so low. They take down the final inhibitor turret as well, collapsing on top of iBoy, but he escapes. Mako looks for the reinitiation for EDG. Can't get it. 2 inhibitors fall through that distraction of a play that comes out from RNG. Now they can just collapse towards the mid lane. EDG are falling apart.
EDG get nothing out of a 5v3 engage. They could not catch up any members. They needed the Righteous Glory from Haro. That was... I don't like that itemization from him.
At the moment, he's got a Randuin's Omen instead first, trying to be a little bit more tanky against the crit damage that would come out from Tristana, but it's almost too little too late for them. 13,000 gold lead for RNG. Every single inhibitor has been taken down. The map is RNG's at the moment. They can take this one slow and steady.
They are being pushed to the brink, and if you look at the RNG for RNG, they're getting triple Mountain Drakes. There's nothing that EDG can do to defend a push.
Take a look at the gold leads that they've acquired as well. he's almost 4,000 gold ahead of Ray at the moment, who's been stuck underneath turrets this entire match. 3,000 in the jungle. Mid lane's a 2,000 gold lead. Uzi has a 3,000 gold lead as well. RNG split up the leads that they have across the map. They're using them so effectively.
And it's so much about patience from RNG. They never grouped up. They never forced the Baron play. They waited until LetMe had a solid footing in the side lanes, that he could split push and have that distance advantage to head over towards the Baron. They didn't rush things, and this is a new growth from RNG. It's a shot-calling improvement.
Kind of shows the difference between the two teams. EDG has had a good start to this split, whereas RNG did not. However, in recent form, EDG have been dropping games. Teams like Rogue Warriors, and now RNG, they have been looking good recently, especially since they brought back Uzi as their AD carry.
This is going to be RNG's return to the top. So far, they haven't been a top team in the LPL aside from IG. They've dropped against RW, and this is their chance.
But their start has to be picking up a win and cleanly here against EDG in game number 1. Only the Nexus turrets are what is left. Banner of Command is used onto a melee minion. Haro almost gets chunked up before a team fight can start. First Nexus turret's taken some damage, but EDG are still holding on strong, still trying to clear out as many waves as they can.
And RNG are holding the better conclave here. LetMe can rush into those towers, and it's going to be a very good Gnar ultimate if he does it there.
iBoy still stepping up, still trying to be a threat in these team fights. RNG have to be careful of that Kog'Maw whenever the Bio-Arcane Barrage is active.
Here is the last push finally from RNG.
Caster decides to initiate. Scout's forced to use his cleanse. Gets knocked back though as Mako looks to lock down Uzi. Uzi is unlocked. Low health bars for the side of EDG. Ray jumps forward. Xiaohu will get a stand united to protect himself. But EDG, they're stuck in their own fountain. They have to step up and defend this final turret. Can they do that? It's going to fall shortly. Scout looking to try to see if he can go in. EDG are clumped up. They get that final turret. RNG say, you know what? We can take this team fight slow. It's up to you, EDG. You need to force the issue here.
EDG still have one more tower to hang on to, the Azir tower, but there's so many super minions coming in. How are they possibly going to defend? EDG, you have to pull the trigger somewhere. You didn't do it when at 20 minutes, you didn't do it at 30 minutes, and now you're just sitting back. I don't understand this.
And RNG say, you know what? We can just head back. We can go shop, pick up more items for ourselves, and clean up this game because there's only a Nexus that's left standing.
I don't think EDG realized the situation they're in. It's never going to get better. They needed to pull the trigger. They needed to pull the trigger then and now, but they still didn't do it. Sure, your chances might not be high, but you put yourself in that situation. You have to find a way to dig yourself out.
Well, patch 8.4 has allowed RNG to be very clinical with their 2v2 skirmishes and working around both Caster and Xiaohu, who are on the top side of the map. EDG need to step something up going into game number 2 and try and contest that coming out from RNG. Because we've already seen how RNG are so clinical in the way they execute games whenever they get that lead from the mid lane and jungle.
Yeah, it's definitely a chokeout on 8.4. We're going to see this tempo a lot more in other games, but here comes the possible final push.
They've initiated the chokehold, now they have to put EDG to sleep. Let's see if they can do it. Looking for that final push. Uzi, he's completed his items, just sitting on a QSS to negate some crowd control coming out from EDG. Ming goes in, locks down iBoy, Caster piles in the crowd control as well. LetMe's about to go mega, jumps in, does he get him more? Scout knocks him back, doesn't matter. Uzi gets into the back lines. At the start of this match, Caster said that this is going to be a fantastic show. He wants to know now, are you entertained by that performance from RNG?
Massive play from LetMe at the end, jumps over the Azir wall and slams 3 carries onto the terrain. Beautiful finish from RNG, and it really does stem from the draft phase. You cannot give Ryze over to Xiaohu. That's too much priority in the mid lane. I don't like the Azir Ryze matchup from EDG.
And that's just game number 1, ladies and gentlemen. We still have a best of 3 series on our hands.
So clinical, so many answers really coming out from EDG. This isn't the Hope EDG that we've seen, this is the iBoy EDG. They're going to try to force things in the bot lane, but I don't think that's the correct path for them on patch 8.4. It's easier to punish aggression when you go into that bot lane. You need to think about how you're going to roam on the map, like Jingdong did.
And that's where all the focus in this matchup was, because you have 2 AD carries that are so well known. iBoy as well as Uzi, the uncrowned king. And that's where a lot of the action was to start the game, but that's not how this game was decided. It was all decided by the macro play that came up from RNG, choking out EDG, and EDG just could not find that avenue to come back into the game.
And this is really the priority of jungle and mid shining through. Sure, EDG had a good bot lane. They won the early bot lane, but it didn't matter in the end because without those defensive wards, the enemy jungler and the mid can just roam down from the river. It's so hard to spot that on patch 8.4. Mid jungle is where it's at. You have to fan pick for it.
And that's probably going to be the first thing that EDG looked to try and change, because Haro didn't look bad. Yes, his first red buff was taken away by Karsa. Karsa had a good gank path, or sorry, jungle pathing to be able to take that. But he was able to get the counter gank in the bottom lane, was able to salvage the awkward situation that EDG were put in. But that's about it. After that, it was just the Karsa show.
Yeah, that definitely is true. And that Smite really swung a lot of things because it was such a close fight. But overall, I do think RNG had a better read on the meta. They know how they can pressure and chokehold the entire map out. While EDG, they're still doing the same thing on patch 8.4. Everything is into the bot lane. All the ganks, all the resources to the bot lane. That's not how patch 8.4 works at all. They need to change up their strategy now.
Well, it seems like RNG definitely got the better read and executed it incredibly well in game number 1. To break it down a little bit further, let's send it back to the analyst desk.
Thank you, Fish, and I guess that definitely eliminates any concerns of form for these two teams. Definitely looking at RNG, an incredible performance in that game 1. Before we get to the matchup, though, for Snake versus Top, if you don't want any spoilers, then turn away now, close your tab, mute me, whatever you want to do. There you go, you can cover your eyes as well. I'm not sure how that's going to help. However, it was a win to Snake. So, congratulations to them, the 2-0 on the day, another victim for the Snake Pit. But let's go ahead and talk about this matchup here, RNG against EDG. We'll start off with the ban picks.
First thing I want to talk about is the top lane. So we talked about how everything is going to be around the bot lane. The X factor would be those top laners, and that's what I felt really came down to, the Gnar and the Maokai. So we talked about the diversity of Ray's champion pool. That said, while he is known for the carries back in NA, while he has shown some of his Camille chops over in the LPL, normally EDG do put him on tank duty. They reach pretty deep into the pool, pull out the Maokai, and I feel like this was the big problem in their draft.
Yeah, it was big just because even though he was, I would say, a solid nature, never getting pushed out, he was just constantly getting, I would say, the minion wave pushed into him. So the priority, Clement made a point of it. It felt like from lane to lane to lane, RNG had that for themselves.
Yeah, the issue is in the win conditions. If RNG always play a 4v4 where they've got Maokai stuck out into a side lane, he's going to automatically lose to Gnar. Gnar itemized for that. We saw it time and time again, and that was the big problem. Ray never got to group up, and we never saw a true 5v5, which is where EDG's composition shines. You look over across at RNG's comp, they have so many more versatile win conditions about how to execute on the map, and played that classic 1-3-1, 1-4, 2017 RNG style.
Now, this did start off in the early game as well because Olaf did have his red buff stolen away. He wasn't able to take that red buff, though we did see a recovery coming in from Haro. He did try and get it rolling in the bottom lane.
That's where I was really worried because the early game bridge was going to be Haro, so him getting immediately poked out in his own jungle, I was like, okay, this is going to be problematic, and this was the result of it because Karsa had so much control, immediately moved towards the bottom side of the map, got the early kill. Here's the worry, because this extended so far on, look at that fat minion wave. Every single one of them are just hitting up Uzi. So Easy did not want to take one axe. Guess what? He took it.
Yeah, from Haro to hero here, and like you said, Raz, he needed to execute on this play because Karsa had already bullied him out of the jungle. He was very far behind, but picking up these 2 kills put the Olaf back into position.
Yeah, and then definitely you saw the mentality shift then from RNG. They moved away from the bottom lane because before the game we were looking towards bottom lane. Well, of course, both teams are going to focus in on it. That's definitely been the MO for both teams against other teams when playing against them. But then they moved towards the middle lane.
Yeah, and it also really started in the jungle around that mid lane. When Karsa goes to execute again on stealing the second rotation of the red buff, I don't believe Haro got a single red this game.
Yeah.
That's when the light bulb went off for Haro. He felt strong. He had just gotten that miracle play on the bot side, and so he decides to overcommit on Karsa and turns it all the way back around for Scout, which gives doubles to Xiaohu. So in this 2v1, that's why Xiaohu feels so confident here. The Azir ultimate works. He's just gotten the double kills because Haro overreached, and he just destroys Scout and Haro.
And if you're a clean enough team, this turns into a game ender because sure, Azir's life, he comes out of it well. He goes back to base and you think that's good enough, but he loses his towers 10 minutes into the game. So that mid lane tower blown wide open, so much map control for RNG.
And then it goes back towards those top laners. If you have a Gnar versus Maokai, you have a mid lane tower that goes down at 10, 11 minutes into the game, suddenly it's so much easier to place that safety net of vision underneath Gnar and allow him to punch. It's so much easier to swing that Rise or that Sejuani out into those side lanes, and so it was just allowed Gnar to run away with the game because he's got his team in his back pocket because Rise is unlocked.
Yeah, and while EDG were just waiting for their item breakpoints to get to their late game team fighting, they never had the opportunity because, of course, Rift Trail still goes over to RNG. They push up top lane, go towards mid lane. It felt like there was no opportunity for EDG to ever group up, let alone get to their item breakpoints where they were comfortable to be able to get their team fight.
Yeah, RNG 100% in control, 100% of the time in that game, preventing any engages that could come onto them as well. And also got to praise them for their setup around the Baron as well. You know, they had the advantage in the early game. They knocked down all of the outer turrets, but it's that setup moving into the Baron that put pretty much the final nail in the coffin.
That's the big thing, because Gnar is just split pushing on the side lane. So EDG are on a timeline, or at least a timer at all points. They can't really deal with the bottom side of the map, so they do have to respond to the possible Baron take from RNG. Mako moves up. He tries to be able to get at least one ward, and this is where the setup comes along. This is when Uzi starts jumping at you because Alistar dies. That's a reset for him. He jumps up. He gets the final auto attack onto the jungler of Haro. He jumps over the Azir wall. All of this was all possible because of the setup of Gnar on the bot side of the map and the setup for, of course, Karsa getting the first pick onto Alistar.
I have to give extreme shoutouts to Uzi. We've had limited tape of him in 2018. This guy is playing probably the best that I've ever seen in his career. Not only timing the Azir wall perfectly, but at the very end when Clement's asking, why? EDG, why didn't you pull the trigger?
Yeah.
Why did you let your next towers go down? It was because as Alistar is in W animation towards Tristana, she counteracts it with her ultimate and kicks him away, knowing Alistar is coming for me. This is the only way back in for EDG, and Uzi finds it mid-animation. It was disgusting.
And honestly, that just comes down to the pre-planning too, because if you're going up towards their Nexus, getting the auto attacks, how is EDG going to start the fight? There are two members. Haru's not going to run at you. He's going to die before he gets to the back line. So it's either going to be Maokai or the Alistar that's eyeing the Tristana. So all you need to do is wait for the animation and send out the R.
Yeah, incredible stuff from RNG. And yes, this has been one game, but how good do you feel that RNG are right now? Because Rusk, you already mentioned it, you feel like Uzi, he's on form, but how good does that go?
The thing for me, though, is that these are the two iterations of the team that we already knew that they could play. EDG go for a late game, bottom style, 5v5 oriented team comp. RNG, guess what? They bring back Let Me, they've been playing with Zatai recently, and they go to the 1-3-1. That was RNG style. This is EDG style, but this is a best of 3. This isn't the NALCS, this isn't a best of 1, so now it comes down to adaptation. And historically, this is where RNG falls short. They've been put in this situation before. They go a game up, but they're unable to adapt. It feels like it's a very easy answer to be like, we probably shouldn't do the Maokai this time around. Let's try to be more flexible. Let me toe-to-toe in that top lane with Ray. Whereas, I don't know if RNG have more options if the Rise is taken away from them. If it's a carry versus carry in the top lane.
And that may be fair, but the biggest change in that equation is going to be Karsa for me, because Karsa in the last few games that we've seen from him when he's been paired up with Uzi has been the added structure. His pathing has been incredible in being able to protect the bottom side of the map.
He's running circles around Haro.
Exactly. So the jungle matchup for me is a stark difference, where Haro, sure, he got the double kill in the bottom side of the map, but had that not happened, then ultimately he gets run over. So I think that Karsa is a much better jungler here, and the matchup looks good for him.
And it's that demolition of the jungle that netted Karsa the MVP and our man of the match in game 1 between RNG and EDG in this one on the Sejuani.
There we go. I mean, he does it well on Sejuani. He does it well on the Rengar. I think right now, Karsa is turning into a gem. We've seen him. We've had a lot of discussions of him when he was in the LMS. He comes into the LPL, has a bit of a slow run, but now that Uzi's back on the team, he's styling.
Imagine that. The best jungler the LMS has ever produced turning into a gem.
There we go.
Yeah, pretty much. I feel like it took a couple of weeks for him to adapt to the LPL and the bloodiness of the region. Yeah, and once he got there, he's now fit in with the team. We see it with Uzi as well. Great stuff from RNG. We'll see if they can continue that momentum heading into the second game as we take a short break.